I did a bit of research and I was trying to look at like ideas for things that I might have missed or something, and not a single person talked about the fundamentals of video editing. Not a single person. That's right, get yourself a drink, get yourself all comfy, pumpy, because ladies and gentlemen, today we're gonna be starting the beginner's course to video editing. Part 1, the fundamentals. Right, 2 things before we start. I know I've been asked to do this for so long, and today we're doing it, so let's make a start. Even though it says beginner's guide, I'm sure if you are a veteran or if you are getting into video editing or you've been doing it for a while now, you will find something in this video that will help you. I can promise you that. So question 1, what are the fundamentals? The fundamentals, the big overarching, the subtitle to what are the fundamentals is that each edit is different. And obviously there might be a given, but that means not only that, yes, of course, each edit is different, and the fact that you're using different files, I don't mean that. What I mean is each edit has its own style, its own pace, and its own movement. None are the same. And being that, there are 3 main stakes to each edit. That is pacing, style, and objective. So those 3 points are going to define your edit, whether you're making a YouTube video, a corporate video, a film. That's going to implement that. We're going to go into that in a sec. So first thing that you have to do before you go into an edit is identify exactly what your main stakes of your edit are going to be. What is the objective? What is the style? And what is the pace going to be? The best way to think of it is like a rope. You've got a couple of threads that are woven together to create one strong thread. And now think of that as an edit. And so now you know the fundamentals, let's go into what the edit is. So as I said, each edit is different. What is your edit? What is it for? Who is it for? The audience. And that will define the style of edit, and it will define the pacing, the style, and the objective. So for example, the objective of a YouTube video and a film is completely different. The style of a YouTube video and a film is completely different, and so is the pace. So it's a given, but it's not actually something that you would normally think about. So let's go through a couple of different styles of videos and how they are affected and what they kind of retain in them. The first one is probably going to be the most popular one and what a lot of people are going to be doing, which is YouTube videos. Whether that's gaming, whether that's stuff like Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, Peter McKinnon, or Daniel Schiffer, or anybody out there, this is its own category. So even though all of those video creators are in different genres, they all have the same thing, the same overarching main stakes in video editing, which is the pacing, the style, and the objective. The objective of a YouTube video obviously is to get views. The style of a YouTube video is to be, well, in a lot of terms, obviously this one's a little bit different, but it is to actually create an audience and please an audience. You could say that for film, but I'll explain it further on. And obviously the pacing of a YouTube video, this is probably the most different one, as this video has to be faster and draw in eyes quicker, because we're living in the style of world that we are living in now, which is why YouTube Shorts and TikTok videos are taking over. So if you're a freelance video editor, you will be doing a lot of that. So good channel to get yourself in, but it will be hooking the viewer instantly. Something that, I'm gonna be totally honest, isn't the easiest thing. It's probably the most difficult thing out of all these. So you've got your 3 points: beginning retention time, that's important, hooking the viewer instantly, faster paced videos as they are more cut up, and then adding to that, often they are less smooth and more choppy. So those 2 last points are paired together, because by having it a bit more choppy and using jump cuts, you're going to reset the retention of the viewer. But that doesn't mean by chopping out every single, because it doesn't work. It's all about the pacing. So then my next genre of video that I've got is I wrote down travel. So this could be anything from travel videos all the way to more cinematic set pieces, and those cinematic videos that we all know and love. And for this one, you have 4 fundamentals. You have a smoother edit style. You don't use jump cuts because they lessen the feeling that you're giving. So number 2, feeling. In this one, you're trying to evoke an emotion through the edit. And you can do that by using point number 3, by using selected music. Music is a massive piece of an edit. In fact, it is nearly just as important as it is than the actual visuals, because it's going to be invoking an emotion that you want the viewer to stay and watch and experience. So whether you're watching a travel video for a country or somebody's home footage, it's going to invoke the same emotion, the same feelings. And then D is the slower pace. So these aren't about hooking instantly and keeping hooked. It's more about the awe of what's being shown on screen. So number 3, genre number 3, narrative filmmaking. So narrative video editing is story driven, even though yes, you can't be the one to be on set. You're not the one on set doing the writing and all that crap, but you're the one piecing the puzzle together. So it might be a beautiful puzzle that's being pieced, but if the video editor doesn't piece that puzzle together well, then it will just fall flat. So it is basically about you in the edit. It's one of the funnest parts of editing because it can really make or break a film. You look at the film that I released in the DJI Mini 2 review, that was just a load of random shots that we got. And in the edit, I pieced that together and created what it became. Yeah, which was something. It might not be fantastic, but it's like piecing randomness together to create a story. This point is one that confuses a lot of people, and the fact that in a movie or in a narrative film, the best edit is the most invisible. The best edit is when people can't tell that there's an edit. So an example for a bad edit could be Taken 3, when it's like 12 cuts jumping over a fence. I'm pretty sure we've all heard that meme. And the best edits are the one where you don't realize the camera's even cutting. And then when it comes to the pacing with this one, it is all about it being evenly paced. You can't have too much rush and then too little rush, otherwise you'll whack somebody out of film. Because it's a longer form of content, it means that the pace has to be distributed more evenly. I think that's the word. And then my last genre is number 4, which is commercial. Commercial is about being emotion driven and product driven. So at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is sell the product. You're not trying to show off your own fancy skills. You're not trying to put a story through. You're not trying to do this and that. You're trying to just sell a product. You're trying to make something look as better than it actually is. And I promise you, from my experience, it is possible by polishing a turd, or because you just do it in the edit. So this genre is often product-based content, which means there's usually no story. You've got to create it yourself in the edit. They're more highly edited, so you might have visual effects, you might have masking going on, you might have some rotoscoping going on, and all that jazz. It's quite fun, honestly, creating something out of nothing. And then the main objective of these videos is selling, making that person money. Whether they're selling a juice box or a piece of technology, it's all about how you can make that thing look as desirable as ever in the edit, because the product might not be that desirable, but in the edit you might be able to make it far more desirable than it actually really is, which is often the case. So you've got these 4 genres, right? What is the genre you're tackling? Are you making a YouTube video? Are you making a narrative? Are you making corporate? Or are you just making a travel video? So you can use these points to kind of narrow down what the main things you need to focus on are. And yes, I'm not saying to just focus and do loads of crap planning. I'm gonna be totally honest, I'm the last person that likes a bit of planning. I can't think of anything worse than sitting there and not editing and just sitting, file organizing, writing what's gonna be this and that. But it's something you just got to keep in your head, and it will become second nature soon enough once you've kind of driven it through yourself that, okay, this is what I'm going to do for that, this is what I'm going to do for that, this is what I'm going to do for that, where you can actually be thinking and processing all those things without even actually having to write anything down. So you've chosen your genre, say it's YouTube or whatever, and now it's time to really think about the edit and what you're going to do with it. And as I said before, that genre is going to determine the style of edit and the way it's going to be edited. So say if it's a YouTube video, your instant reaction shouldn't be cut, 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 cut. Why are you cutting? That's the question. So if we look at a case study of like a Mr. Beast reaction video, where it's absolutely cut, 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 cut. And the reason for that is not only because of the audience that is Mr. Beast's content, which is everybody. So basically what he needs to do is he needs to be able to give his content to everybody. Okay, so I'm gonna give you an example here. An example would be, in an 18 rated movie, you'd expect more blood and swearing and stuff like that. In some content that's aimed at young people, you would look at more cuts to keep the retention of kids because the retention's shorter, so that they don't just drift off into a sleep or get bored. And that's what the perfect part of MrBeast content is the fact that it will aim at basically everybody. The main part of the actual video, the topic, is basically for everybody, but the start of the edit is mainly for kids. And that's why it works so well. So before you go cutting like crazy, I want you to ask yourself, why? What are you cutting for? Because who is your audience? Because it's not about cutting every single breath and bit of air or some space out. It's about deciding when to make the cut. So you implement it in sentences and flow of speech. Because if you start to cut every single little bit of air out, you just start to sound like a robot. So in a past video, I talked about how to speak in front of a camera, which I'm sure all of you should go and look at, because this kind of helps you understanding flow of speech and flow of conversation. And when you're making a video, you want to make sure that you continue with that flow of speech. So for example, if I end a sentence on a high note and then I start a sentence really low, it's quite jarring. But if I go high and then I take it back down, then you can kind of work with that edit. I think that made sense. So before you start cutting, I want you to ask yourself, why is it helping? What is it helping? And once you've knocked down all the choices and made sure that's the reason, then you can go and cut. You can start cutting once you've affirmed yourself that that's the right thing to do. And then the last point in that is the flow of speech and music, which is obviously, like I just said, another really important part. So before we get into editing, you've got to do 4 last points. That is, review your footage. I want you to know exactly what you're editing. I want you to make sure you know exactly what you're editing and the type of genre, the pace and the style that you're going to be going for before you even touch the mouse or the trackpad or your controller or your mobile phone. Yeah, you might be working on like Oculus Rift. So planning your edit will mean that your edits come out way better than if you don't plan your edit. That doesn't mean by writing it on a piece of paper. Think about it, piece it in your head, understand where you're going to cut and when you're not going to cut and how you're going to cut and blah, blah, blah. The next point is choose a level of importance per segment of the video. If a video requires more editing, spend more time on that. If it doesn't, don't overthink your edits, because if you're over editing and under edit, it's gonna break. If you chop up a small clip far too many times, you've over edited. If it looks like some kind of Swiss cheese grater, then yes, you've hit the wrong note. And then your last point of this is, what do you want to achieve with this edit? Is it to bring in viewers? Is it to entertain people? Is it to make people sad? Is it to invoke a certain emotion? What is it? And when you've decided that, then you can really start editing. Like I said, this isn't about writing on a piece of paper or sitting bored as heck, because that's not about editing. It's like me, if I shoot something, I can't wait to get home and actually just start editing and tearing it to pieces and doing it. Yeah, it's like with these videos, and we totally honest with you, every time I shoot a video, I'm just like, right, straight onto the keyboard. And once you've decided what you want to achieve with this video, then it is time to start editing. And ladies and gentlemen, that means it's the end of the first part. It's a pretty fast part, to be honest. Don't worry, I'll slow down when it comes to the actual editing. But this is Beginner's Guide's course to video editing. Part 1, the fundamentals. Ask me questions down below if there's anything that you need answered. But for now, that's it until we start actually editing. So in the next part 2, we're going to be beginning the edit, and that's going to be preparing your entire layout of the timeline and that kind of stuff. Because I know a lot of people ask me that question. Right, this is exactly why I'm not making you pay for this course. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the absolute next one.